So the demo that we are going to discuss now is Interceptor. Interceptor is one of the new feature introduced in Angular 5. So before proceeding into the session, I just want to give you an idea about what is this Interceptor is all about. So to work with Interceptor, so usually we'll be giving the request from the client to the server. Okay, assume that this is a client and this is going to be a server. So when you are giving the request, it needs to travel via a HTTP pipeline. All right. So for example, I'm just drawing my HTTP pipeline here. Assume that this is going to be my HTTP pipeline. So whenever you give any request, the request will be passed via this HTTP pipeline only before it reaches a server. Okay, I'm just giving you a overall view about this interceptor. It's not only specific to Angular. Okay, whenever you give any request, the request needs to be passed via this HTTP pipeline. And similarly, when the server responds back, that response also needs to be passed in the same HTTP pipeline. I hope you all got this. So what I can do here is, when the request is passed and we are getting the response, I can write or I can put some logic in this HTTP pipeline itself so that I can intercept the request and response. Okay, I can intercept the request and response. So that's the idea of using the interceptor. In the programming in the concepts like Node.js, we used to call this concept as middleware. So this middleware concept is becoming popular, like even in ASP.NET Core we have this middleware part, and similarly in the Node.js we have the middleware part. So here in Angular this is used to call as interceptor. So mainly it is used to intercept the request and response. Okay, it is used to it is used to grab the request and we can do something with that. So to make you understand this, let me just start with one demo. The demo is first let me open my Visual Studio Code. So this is a program that we have done yesterday, that is the service program. I'm just still continuing with that. So the topic that we are going to discuss is interceptor. So what I'm going to do now in the sense, whenever the request is coming in, I just want to create an interceptor called the logger interceptor. So this logger interceptor is going to implement the HTTP interceptor, which is going to intercept the request and response that we are sending it via Angular. So this is going to act like a service. So in fact it is a service. Interceptor is also a service. So I'm just placing the code inside the service folder, creating a new file. Let me call this file as logger.interceptor.ts. Let me try to create two interceptor to make you understand this in a better manner. So this is going to be a class once again. So export the class. The class name is logger interceptor. Okay, and I want to make use of the dependency injection. So in order to do that, first we need to use the import statement from the Angular core. Let me pick up the injectable and let me decorate this with @injectable so that it can be injected. Okay, but as I told you, if I want to use the interceptor concept, we are supposed to implement the HTTP interceptor, which is available in Angular/common/HTTP module. You can just simply start typing implements HTTP interceptor, enter. So you can see that it will automatically import that. So now we are supposed to compulsorily provide the method definition. So the method whatever is there in the interceptor interface, that needs to be implemented here. So let me control click this and take the method. So this is the method, that is intercept method. Copy this part and paste it. So we are supposed to implement this intercept method. So look at that it takes the request object and it takes the there is another concept called next is there. So I'll explain what is it next. So the request, we are getting the request, and this next is, it is used to denote the next interceptor or the next middleware that we are going to execute. So I'm just going to start implementing this. This time I'm just going to make my interceptor very simple. Whatever request is coming, I just want to log the request URL. So to do that, I'm simply saying console.log the requested URL is $rec.url. So here what we are doing in the sense, if you see, we have to return something, right? So the return, I'm just giving next dot, there's a function called a handle the request. So look at this, it is not implementing this HTTP request. So let me copy that and put it here, and HTTP handler, and even we require the observable and HTTP event. So to implement the observable, import from rxjs/observable. From there pick up the observable object. Yes. So I think now you'll get the intelligent support. Next dot, yeah, handle. So what is this next? Next is the HTTP handler, the another interceptor. So as I told to you, in this pipeline I can place n number of interceptors. So we can have multiple interceptors. Okay, so once this interceptor completed its work, its duty is to just hand it over to the next interceptor which is placed in the HTTP pipeline. So what I am doing here, it is very simple. I am just having the logger interceptor which is implementing this HTTP interceptor, and I'm just going to intercept all the HTTP requests henceforth. Okay, whatever HTTP related stuff, it's going to happen. For example, yesterday we have given a request to that JSON placeholder, right? So it is a HTTP request only. I need to intercept that, and I just want to take the requested URL and print it. And since there is no more interceptor is placed in the pipeline, it doesn't, there is no need to worry about this. It will just pass it to the next. If next is there, that next interceptor will take, and if that next interceptor is having some sort of actions to get performed with that particular things, it will continue. If not, it will just pass it to the server. And similarly, when the response is coming back as well, I can trap this interceptor and I can write some sort of code. So we have successfully created one interceptor. That interceptor is just going to listen for all the HTTP requests, and whatever request URL you are going to pass, that is going to be get printed in the console screen. Very simple stuff. Got it? So you can do anything in the request object. You can add one header. Whenever I'm requesting, I want to add a header, that can be done. Okay, probably I will do that in the upcoming demo. So as of now, it's very simple. It's a logger interceptor which is going to intercept the request. That is, it's going to grab that request, and whatever URL we are passing, that is going to be get printed, and it is going to move next. Any question? No. Now, as I told to you, this is a service. So service means it needs to be injected and it needs to be registered, because this is a user interface. So sorry, this is a user service or a custom service. So we are supposed to register it first. So how you want to register, you decide it. I want to register in the application level. So I'm just moving into the app.module.ts. So in the app.module.ts, already we have two services. Now I'm just having this interceptor service. So to do this, in the provide, instead of providing our own value, okay, we are going to use the provider which is inbuilt. We have written the implementation using a class, but we are just going to use the interceptor which is available in the common module. To do this, in the provide, we need to provide the constant called HTTP underscore interceptor. So when I do this, it should be implementing from the common slash HTTP. So this HTTP interceptor, it's a it's a token kind of stuff, okay, which needs to be provided. Then the implementation that we have written in a class. So I'm just using use class. So when I say use class, we are supposed to specify the class name. The class name is logger interceptor, comma, then the next option is multi. I'll explain the multi concept later. So as of now, save this and run the program. So what we have done is we have registered it. Hereafter, any HTTP request you make, it needs to pass via this logger interceptor, and that logger interceptor is just going to grab the HTTP request and take the URL and print it into the console screen. Let me check. npm run start. Okay, localhost 4200. Mixing multi and non-multi provider is not possible. Okay, so I think we need to provide So look at this, the requested URL, it is just printing that. So whatever hereafter any request you pass, for example click, so that interceptor plays a vital role here. It's just taking that and it is printing that. So what is the usage of this multi? So when I specify multiple providers, it will allow you, for example here we already use some providers, right? So if I want to ensure that we are going to use this HTTP interceptor, by default we need to specify, by default it is false. So if you don't have any other provider, then it will work. If you want to use along with this one and we are going to use multiple providers, okay, in the service, then you need to set it to multi as true. If you have multiple providers, not only Square email, if you want one more interceptor in your application, if you have more than one provider, then ensure that multi is set to true. So I hope you all understood this part. Hereafter any request pass, that request we need to be passed via the HTTP pipeline. I'm intercepting that and I'm printing that requested URL. Okay, requesting URL is good, it's working. What about response? How to get the response detail? For example, each and every time when I give a request, I need to get back the response as well, right? So I want to trap that response and do something with that. You can do it whatever you want. For example, somebody asked me yesterday one question, like when I'm getting a response, if suppose it is XML, what to do? If it is XML, it needs to be converted into JSON, right? This is the best place. You can create one interceptor called XML interceptor, that or convert to XML interceptor, take the JSON object or XML object, whatever it's coming up, that XML needs to be get converted back to JSON. That sort of code can be written in the response part. For example, just I want to show you how to tap the response and get the detail. So instead of returning this, okay, before that, any questions so far? No. Okay, great. Now just listen. I just want to tap the response. I want to get the response. If there are multiple interceptor, no problem, it's going to work. First it will go via this interceptor, then it needs to go via this interceptor. Like this, we can have multiple interceptor. Once the topic is done or the task is done, it needs to pass it to the next interceptor. based on the registration. Now we have only one interceptor. If I'm going to create one more, the next interceptor, so this will be the first interceptor to be get executed, then the second interceptor will be get executed. Clear, Shailesh? Okay, we'll create one more interceptor so that you can understand that in a better way. So Tejal, as of now we are modifying the request only, we are just accessing. Response we haven't touched. I can modify the response. Similarly, I can modify the request as well. Yes, that's what I'm going to say. For example, in the request object, I want to add a header. I can do that. Okay, we'll do that as a demo now. Now please listen. So in the logger interceptor, no, that is my own interceptor. I am creating it. Logger interceptor is the name that I am providing. What I'm going to do in the sense, I'm going to log the URL. So you can say instead of logger interceptor, I can say log URL interceptor. That will be better to avoid confusion. Okay, anyway, I have created that name, so no need to worry. So now what I'm going to do is not only going to this logger interceptor is not only going to intercept the request, it's also going to intercept the response as well. To do that, to tap the response, I'm just going to tap the response. Return next dot handle the request. So if you listen, it returns observable of HTTP event. Okay, it's a observable. So if it is observable, obviously I can use the pipe method. I can pipe it, and you can have any what to say, like operators. There are a lot of operators we have used. I have shown you how to use map, filter, etc. Now I want to use one of the important import from rxjs/operator. In that operators, we have one more operator called tap. So I got the response request. So I'm just piping it. When I pipe it, I'm just going to use one of the operator called tap. So if you see what we are passing the event handle. It's just taking the HTTP event. So I want to do something with that. So I can use the tap method, okay, so that I can get that event. Now this event is nothing but that HTTP event. Okay, so you can even specify it is HTTP event, okay, or like this directly. This is nothing but the HTTP event. I got that HTTP event. Once you have the event with you, then you can just check if the event dot type, whether it is of HTTP event type dot, is that a request or response or whatever it might be. I can just check it out. So especially the request object, by default it is available. So if I want to tap it for the response, type dot, if it is response, so we got into the response. In the response, whatever you want to do. Okay, this is right now we are in the response part. So everything is available in the event. This event denotes the response. The response related events will be available here. So I can access event dot. Look at this. These are all the response details: status, text type, URL, etc. I just want to print the body. Console.log the event dot body. So when the response is coming up, so now we have the logger interceptor. The logger interceptor performs two things. When the request is passed, I'm just printing the requested URL. Similarly, when we getting back the response, I'm just printing whatever is there in the response body. Okay, so let me check it out. Look at this. So when I run this program first time, requested URL, that is request interceptor, and in the response we are just getting this 200 to dos. Same way, when I just give view to do, this is the request and this is the response. So we can trap it. And if you want, I'm just going to modify event.body. Let me change the title. Before it reaches the client, I can do something like this: event.body.title and changed by interceptor. Let me just show one thing. Click. Look at the title of that particular one. Like if I say, so see here we are just changing the title of the 25. So you can do something like this. So event.body.title, if it is like this, so what to do, that sort of things can be done with the help of this by tapping the response. Have you understood? So you can do anything with whatever you are planning to do. Change is permanent means like it is like I'm just taking that interceptor only for the view part. When it is coming from the response, in the response I'm doing a change. It is not permanent. Okay, in fact it is not getting updated because I need to write the code accordingly. So I can trap that response and do whatever I want. I can just completely change the response. But because the server sends a response back to the client, I told you the typical use case is I'm just getting a XML response. Okay, that XML response needs to be converted into JSON, then give it to the client. That sort of things can be done with the help of this interceptor. Okay, so somebody asked me this question: is it possible to change something in the request? For example, this is what the request we are passing every time, that can be trapped with this network. Okay, this is not the best practice. Let me delete it. I'm just trying to print the response body. Print the response body in console. That's what I'm doing as of now. Look at the request. So this is the request object. So in this request, these are all this is the general one, and look at the headers. In the request we are having 10 headers: accept encoding, accept language, cache control, host, lot of things are there. Now I want to create one interceptor. That interceptor is going to add one header to my request header. To my request, whenever I give any request, I want to pass a header detail. Okay, that is, I'm just going to modify the request object. So to do that, let me create one more interceptor. This time let me create an interceptor called add header interceptor dot interceptor dot cs, sorry, ts. Okay, so I'm just copying the complete code and we'll just modify it. So this time I'm going to concentrate only on the request part, okay, not on other things. So here let me name this as add header interceptor And one important thing you need to understand here is the request object, right? This request object is immutable. Okay, this request object is immutable. So whenever you want to do any change, sorry, it is mutable. So whenever you do any change, you need to give a new state. You cannot alter that. For example, this request object, it is like some read-only kind of stuff. Control click. Yeah, yes, that's a read-only. Look at that. It's a read-only stuff. This HTTP request is a read-only. Then if it is read-only, then how you can edit that, right? So what you need to do is we need to always clone and edit it. You cannot directly edit the HTTP request, just for your information. So now I just want to create the clone of the request. If I want to do any changes with the request, especially now I'm going to add one header, right? Since it's a read-only type, you cannot directly edit that. So in order to edit it, we are supposed to use the clone method. Let me try that. Let request or cloned request equal to rec. Since we are going to change it the header, let me have header request equal to rec dot clone. So why we are doing this? Because it's a read only. Since it is read only, since HTTP request is read only, we need to clone it. Then only we can edit that. So in the clone method, you can edit the stuff. For example, I just want to use, there are a lot of things are there, set the header, set params, etc. I'm just using set headers. In the header request, I'm just in the request object, I'm going to set one header. This is a custom header. Like we have a lot of headers, like accept is one of the header. Then content type is again another header. Like that, we have a lot of header. If you want to create your own header, then it should start with X hyphen. This is used to denote it's a custom header. So X hyphen company name. So hereafter, in all my HTTP requests from the Angular, we need to compulsorily add this X hyphen company name as Capgemini. So this will be very much useful when you are passing the token and other things as a header. If you want to pass it in the request header, you can use this interceptor part. Okay, now we have cloned it. Then I need to just return rec dot, sorry, next dot handle. Instead of passing this request, you need to pass the header request. So what we have done, simple, add header interceptor. This add header interceptor, if I add it into my app module.ts, and this is the order. First logger interceptor will be executed, then only this add header interceptor will be get executed. So we have just given a request. Let me see what's happening. Yeah, it's done. Click in the request header. Look at this. We have our custom header called X hyphen company name with the value Capgemini is being passed. You can intercept the request and response of HTTP with the help of this HTTP interceptors, which is available from Angular 5.